we just had a question coming which says, what emoluments should be given employees working from home considering costs of power and data?
Okay, so what I will say is, number one, it depends on your business. So look at, start from what can I afford? Start from what can I afford? After you come from what can I afford, look at what do they need. Definitely, you're an employer, okay? Can you pay them their salary? Yes or no? If you can't, then what do they need? Are they working? If they're working, you have to pay them something for their services, and then you have to enable them to work, which means you must pay them for data, and you must pay them for the extra hours that they'll be using their generator, if they're on generator or inverter and so on. So I know several employers who are thinking of something like 5,000 Naira per week for their employees who are working from home. And then some employers whose employees cannot work at all are looking at things like from 10, 15,000 Naira a month for those who really can't afford much to much higher. And it also depends on the number of employees that you have. So there's no one figure. It really depends on your own individual situation. Whatever you offer, make sure you can meet it. So don't ask them what they need, and then you now look and realize that you can't meet that need. You know, right now, your word really has to be your bond. You only promise what you can deliver.
Okay, so we also have another question here, which says, what if employees resist reduction of salaries after you're offering to make them take a pay cut?
Okay, so this is why I said, open your communication lines first. Reach out to them, let them know how are they doing, show them that you care, you hope that they're staying safe, let them know the challenges you're having, revenue has stopped coming in, and so on. In fact, you don't even know how you're going to pay salaries. Let them know that this is the situation. And then later on, go back to them and say, okay, so you're now looking at salaries and so on. The business hasn't made enough money to meet its salaries. What do they suggest? I suggest you ask them first. Let them, some of them might come up with, well, you won't pay us now, but maybe you can give us something small to survive. And then you ask them, how much are you talking about? I think if the conversation goes that way, it might be better rather than go out and say, well, we haven't made any revenue, we can't afford to pay salaries, all of you have to take a 70% salary cut. Many of them will have to resist because they don't feel they are part of the problem. They feel they are a victim of the problem. When you ask them for their own suggestion, you are involving them and making them part of the problem and part of the solution. But if they resist, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing really they can do. Employee power comes from the threat of withdrawing their services or the threat of legal action. It comes from those two places. Right now, the threat of withdrawing services, nobody's in a position to offer the services in the first place. And then the threat of legal action, going to court. Again, so many employers are in the same boat. So employees are in a particularly powerless situation right now, which is very, very sad. And I'm really hoping that employers won't take advantage of that. There are many employers who have a reserve and they can afford to continue paying their staff for a significant period of time. So if you are one of those employers, what I suggest you do is you look at your reserve and decide how much of it you can dedicate to staff salaries and let them know that, okay, we don't know what's going to happen and I want to be able to pay you for at least 3 months. So I can afford to pay you so and so amount. Let them know what you can afford to pay them rather than say you're going to get the salary cut off. Reframe the conversation so that you don't come out as the evil employer. But right now there's no real power of resistance. The issue with if they resist is that they will be so unhappy that when you need them to do work for you or to come back for work, that there will now be a disconnect with the company. They might be a good employee that you will lose, start looking for another job, go somewhere else, and so on. But really, A lot of employers have already terminated the employment of their staff. So we have a lot of people every day who are joining the ranks of the unemployed. So if you are one of those employers who is even trying to maintain the employment of your staff and pay them something, they're in a better position than many other Nigerians. So try and do it in a compassionate way and involve the staff in the conversation. Hear what they have to say before you let them know what you have decided.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ma. We have another question here coming from an entrepreneur who runs a growing finance leasing firm, and he's asking, how can my organization benefit from this pandemic? We presently can work, but I believe things will pick up afterwards. So how would a finance leasing firm benefit from this pandemic situation?
Okay. So what I think from this is me personally, and you just asked me the question, so I'm thinking off the top of my head. But frankly, a lot of businesses are going to have to deliver a combined offline and online offering from now on. Their businesses will never be completely offline ever again, which means many of them who didn't have any business processes online really have to start getting the hardware. So what I think you should do is partner with a computer company, let them know what sort of solutions they can offer for different MSMEs and other companies. Okay, what sort of package it is in terms of hardware and software, and then offer that package as a product that you are offering, that you can do on a leasing basis. I mean, that's what comes to my mind right away, but there may be many other opportunities. Really, you need to look at the businesses that will be emerging and that will emerge stronger. Even the cleaning companies, they're having to use to disinfect, they're having to use heavy equipment. They're using heavy equipment, and then they have all those other handheld devices. These are all devices, and it's going to be needed into the foreseeable future. Things that before cleaners used to come with mops and brooms and things like that. Now they're going to be needing some equipment. So I think you need to look in the areas, those industries that have received a boost during this crisis and whose services will continue afterwards, and develop products for them. Give them the idea of what they need and then offer them the finance for it.
I think we need to emphasize the fact that I think that was last week. We sent out the processes of accessing this fund, but the summary is we help our own entrepreneurs to access this fund, because NISA Microfinance Bank is one of partners that we work with directly. So for anybody that wants to access this fund, they can go online directly to apply, and they will select Faith as their training institution.
Okay. So the answer to that question is reach out to Faith Foundation, to the business support services, and they will take you through the process. So the support is there, the funds are there, and the support is there, and we have the time, as you said, we have the time now to process this. So this is the opportunity, actually. So please look beyond the current situation. Think bigger than this. This is an opportunity for your organization to scale.
Okay, so we have another question here coming from an entrepreneur whose business really requires physical presence for business to run. And it says, will it be wise to pay half salaries for my staff? Currently, they are not working at all now because the business requires physical presence, but they will be required after the crisis.
Yeah. I think for now, during the lockdown, I think 30 to 50% is fine. And then you let them know that those of them that have special circumstances or challenges should let you know, because some of them might still have to pay rent, some of them might still have to pay school fees and things like that. But I think that is it's reasonable. Remember, you have to start from your affordability. If you don't have money, you can't pay them anything. You cannot pay them anything if you don't have money. So you have to start with what you can afford to pay. If you take out transport allowance is normally, so when we used to calculate basic transport housing, basic salary was between 30 to 50% of the salary. And then you'd have transport allowance and you'd have housing allowance. So if you take out just the transport allowance, and the other incidentals that are related to staff coming to work, it brings you down to about 70%. Yeah. And then the fact that the organization is not producing, so they are not even working, they're not earning their pay. You can then decide that there's another 30 to 50% that you want to remove from that. But again, I would advise you, unless you have a huge staff strength, I'd advise you to use an individualized approach. You can say, look, this is what I want to do for everybody, but come and talk to me one-on-one. Let me know what your situation is. You can always adjust for it later on when you're paying people's salaries. You can convert it to a loan later. You can see what you can do later on. But the important thing is to survive at this point and give people a sense of, so let them know what they can expect and then let them get it. So I think that's fine. I saw another question about somebody saying, I'm paying 70%, and that can he reduce it? Did you see that question? I've offered 30%.
Okay, 30%. Okay. Okay, it reads, I'm in the aviation industry. I have offered 30% cuts, which was accepted. This will run for another 3 months at the least. Would it be fair to continue on that 70%, even after things get better to normal, to recover our reserves?
Yeah, so that one is negotiated. Okay, it's negotiated. So what I suggest you do is you let staff know that you're putting them on 70% for this period, and it will continue until the organization has gotten back to stable financial, and you have to keep your word, because I know we're employers, right? And we're in business to make money. So if you say that 70% for now, let's say flights resume in May. Let's say flights resume in May. You want to retain the 70% because you've lost so much money. But I think you should communicate with them and say, look, this is what I want us to do. I want us to manage on this 70% until December, so that we can, the business can recover lost ground and we'll be in a stronger position to be able to guarantee that we can meet our obligations to you. But it's negotiated. They have to accept it. And that might mean you need to be a little more open with what the financial situation of the organization is. You can tell them that, look, I can offer to pay you 100% of your salary, but I will not be able to. I will still pay you less than that. It's better for us to agree now so you have certainty about what you can expect. And I hope that you're an employer who pays your staff on time and are not owing salaries. Because if you are one of those employers, then they're not going to believe anything you say anyway. But yes, it's reasonable to ask your staff to remain on a reduced salary until the business is back on a sound footing. That's very reasonable. But there has to be a time limit.
Okay. So thank you very much, Ma. We have another question here coming from a service-based company, which says, how can an event and brand management company survive in this pandemic situation?
I have no idea. All I can say is so in brand management, there's a lot of work for brand management. In fact, a lot of organizations are seeing the fact that they have so many more eyeballs online as the opportunity to really establish their brand. So on the brand side, I think there's a lot of work to do. Let people know you're out there and the services you can offer, reduce the cost of your services to make it attractive. On the event side, I can tell you in other countries, they've taken a lot of events online, a lot. I do like just this webinar, but I do quite a bit of training as well. And there are some organizations who are doing even team building online. They're doing karaoke online. Some people have taken their birthday parties online. So it might not be as elaborate as the way you normally do it, but what it means is that your overhead costs as an event manager are much less. So you just have to pay your fees, the cost of the events that you're going to create for them and curate for them, the ideas you're going to bring towards. So a lot of events have moved online as well. So I think you should consider that. Look at what people are doing for fun. And some of them are doing it for exercise as well. They're doing everything groups because a lot of people are alone. So they're trying to do things together with other people. They're calling it alone together, right? We're all alone together, just like we are doing this webinar now. So I think it's an opportunity for you. Do your research, come up with ideas. The problem is going to be people cannot think of what kind of event they can have, how they can make it fun. If you can do the thinking for them and offer it as a product, I think you should be able to get some customers and make some business. The important thing would be for you to have control of the platform. I think that would be the important thing.
Okay, so this question now is coming from the slide which you talked about on performance management, and it reads, you talked about apps for monitoring team performance remotely. Are there specific ones you could or you would recommend?
Okay, the answer to that is no. There are ones I recommend. It really does depend. So if you're a big company, you already have time. They already have what they call it, billing. They already have billing in all their management information systems and so on. It's very easy for people to log on and log off and people to know when they're managing it. But these days, I generally tell people, get a cloud-based solution. And if possible, get one that is a mobile solution that you and your staff can use on your phones. So there are many HR performance management applications. I don't want to mention any in particular because they are so common. And some of them have time management as one of the tools that you can deploy. So just do some research and you'll find one that suits your situation.
Okay, another quick question reads, will the COVID-19 change mode of work in organizations after the pandemic dies off?
Will the COVID-19 do what?
Will it change the mode of work in organizations?
Yeah, I believe so. So I'm a diversity champion, which means that I consider myself a social justice activist. And for many years, I've been talking to employers about how they do their performance management, that they manage people for being at work from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. instead of managing people for the work that they deliver to you, the presentations, the activities, the clients they bring in and so on. That's really what you're paying them for the KPIs, for what they're delivering. But you've been managing them for the amount of hours they spend at work, in the office or in the factory or wherever it is, or on the field. So this debate has been going on for a long time. What I think COVID-19 has done, it's going to force the shift that many of us have been advocating for a long time. From now on, people will be evaluated and people will be rewarded for what they deliver, not for where they are when they are doing the work, how many hours they spend in the office, and so on. Which means that most employers, I anticipate that most employers will have flexible working as standard in their policies. So when you work for somebody, you should be able to work from anywhere.
Quick one. So this says, my challenge in business is getting reputable and experienced hands to manage my warehouses.
Yeah.
It's been a bit of a challenge for us as a company, and how can you suggest, or how can they really address this, getting experienced hands to manage the warehouse?
I think you have an opportunity now. Really, you have to advertise. You have to advertise in a smart way. So the people who are experienced at managing warehouses, where can you find those people? Don't just advertise the way you advertise for a normal job. Where can you find those people? And where you can find them is how you should reach out to target them. The other thing you can do is that you can headhunt. So with apps like LinkedIn, it makes it very, very easy to headhunt. You now type in warehouse manager, inventory manager, so on, and you get a list of names of people who have those jobs and reach out to them one by one. That's headhunting. So you know that they're already doing the job. And then when you're interviewing, you do what we call behavioral evidence-based interviews. So you are asking them what they have done, what they know how to do. And then you ask them to describe what they know how to do in detail, step by step, by step, by step, by step. So you don't have somebody who talks a good talk and will come and cannot do the work, okay? And then again, when you hire them, put them on a 1-week trial. Because as an MSME, you cannot afford to hire somebody, employ somebody, go through all of that. And then you now find out when the person comes in, they can't even do the job. Give them a 1-week trial. and see, before you employ them, and see whether the person can actually do the job. So there are certain steps I think you can take, but the biggest one is actually searching for them where they can be found. And I think all of this goes back to having time. As MSM, as entrepreneurs, most of the time we just don't have time to do really important work because we're too busy responding to operational needs. But this lockdown is giving us, many of us, time. So this is the time to really put your thinking hat on, employ your brain cells. You all have them, okay? And think about the best, most effective, most efficient ways for you to get things done that will give you the results that you want. So I wish you all well. I wish all of us well. As I said, we're all in the same boat. I'm in the same boat as you. I'll let you know how my own employees in some of the businesses I'm engaged in, how they respond to the measures that we're going to be forced to put in place as a result of this crisis, just for business continuity, to keep the business surviving. And again, as I said at the beginning of the presentation, what we want to do is we want to emerge from this crisis stronger and more profitable than we went in. And that will be that, and what will determine that is what sort of thinking and what sort of risk assessment, opportunity assessment, and thinking and action planning that we put in place right now. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matt. Okay, to everyone in house, unfortunately, we couldn't attend to everyone's questions, but I'm sure we all had something great to pick out of this session. We also have in-house here the Executive Director of Faith Foundation, Mrs. Adenike Adeyemi, and I'm sure she has a couple of words to address us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Itoro. Thank you very much, Mrs. Balogun. I have to first of all apologize. I joined in about 30 minutes late because I had another webinar that I had already been involved in. But for me, again, you know, these sessions are very, very, they're very helpful for me, and yours in particularly has been very much so. If we think about a lot of the issues that our businesses are facing, the people part really is the much more sensitive one. It's the one that requires, as you said, a lot of thought, a lot of approach, a lot of communication, communication, you know, and everything cannot be done from an emotional perspective, or not only be done from an emotional perspective. So you look at where you are from a cash flow perspective, what you can do, and then you make the decisions as you should, but also bringing a lot of empathy and emotion into that. You also spoke on a lot of strategy, and so, well, it's also a crisis situation, but there may be some potential opportunities, opportunities to go back to the drawing board, opportunities to re-strategize, to replan, to do some things that we would ordinarily not have been able to do if we're in the business day to day. It's not going to be an easy period. We're not even sure when there's going to be an end to the situation that we're going through. But it's something that we have to go in and take it as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to review, to renew, and hopefully you know, eventually get better. When a lot of questions were coming up over the last 2 weeks around people-related issues, we knew that you were the person that we wanted to do this. And thank you very much for always saying yes to us. You're very much your Faith Foundation in so many ways. And I really appreciate your very practical session and guideline tips. I know a number of the entrepreneurs that are participating on this call are experienced entrepreneurs in themselves, and they have a lot of businesses, a lot of employees rather, that they're managing at this period. And this has been a very hot button topic, even on some of our WhatsApp groups that we've had. So thank you very much, Mrs. Balogun.